In 1968, the University of Washington was beginning a remarkable transformation. We were just beginning to acquire the national and international reputation for academic excellence that we enjoy today. And the campus was changing pretty remarkably as well. Here in Red Square, for example, this was all full of grass in a park-like setting. And on the campus, it was very hard to find an African American, a Native American, or a Latino student, faculty, or staff member.
I was the only professor there, black professor there at the time. There were very few black students, and the atmosphere was kind of a hands-off. I didn't find hostility, just disinterest and a lack of overt recognition that it's not a good place if a university doesn't have diversity.
A lot of people just weren't used to seeing people of color on campus, and sometimes you go by and people would stare at you, and you walk into class and sit down, and as people would come in the classroom, they flash and do double takes and that sort of thing.
In the wider Seattle community, racism was often hidden beneath a surface of civility.
It was much more subtle and not as blatant as in the South, but there was clear discrimination in housing. If an African American family wanted to move into what was a white neighborhood, there was strong resistance, and real estate agents and others simply wouldn't show them housing.
It was very informal, but it was also very vivid. You kind of knew different parts of town where you were welcome and where you weren't welcome.
As has often been the case, young intellectuals became leaders of change. On the University of Washington campus, students demanded that the administration not only recognize the need for diversity, but also take immediate steps to make it happen. On May 20th, 1968, members of the Black Student Union staged a sit-in to present their demands.
We said we wanted poor whites to be served. 1. 2, that there be a Black Studies program set up on this campus. 3, that you can't bring a lot of students of color out here and not have a academic, social, and cultural structure that they feel comfortable with, or they may be so alienated that they might not be able to successfully complete their university education. And then 4th, that there be more black staff, from professors to counselors to administrators hired by the university. And 5th, that we be represented on every policy-making body on the campus.
And that's when the president appointed some people to look at each of those issues in terms of implementation of a process to make them happen.
President Charles Odegaard and other administrators were willing to listen. More importantly, they were willing to take action to meet the demands. They became partners with the students rather than their adversaries.
The administration of President Charles Odegaard could have reacted quite differently than the way that they did. There were then and there are now tools of repression. There could have been arrest warrants. There could have been expulsions. There could have been student disciplinary hearings of some sort. Could have been a lot of things that we would have been confronted with. And perhaps if those things had occurred, the struggle would have been different. But Charles Odegaard didn't do those things, and he wasn't of that type. We left the University Administration building in triumph. We felt like we had made our point.
The sit-in ended with a promise for change, a promise that would continue to be fulfilled for 40 years. One of the first steps was to recruit more students of color.
We recruited all over the state of Washington, and a number of students came who were sincere and really wanted to get an education and really graduated and went to go on to graduate school.
The fact that African Americans were speaking on behalf of the University of Washington, that was enough to convince me that that was the place I wanted to be. And they were talking about opportunity, about doors being opened.
Those doors were kept open by the Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity, which Dr. Sam Kelly built into a strong campus institution. In the beginning, it was unique.
I didn't know Office of Minority Affairs in the whole country with any major university that I ever saw. And as I told President Odegaard when I agreed to take the job that I would take it provided we were able to grow even during times of economic downturn. And I indicated to him that I didn't want a job that my office would be over near the football shed behind the stadium.
We had someone who was part of the President's cabinet who has a seat at the table when policy and decisions are being made relative to student services and faculty recruitment and curriculum reform. So that was very different.
So what you got to do is you got to say to MGCL.
The Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity supports students through its instructional center. The Ethnic Cultural Center brings people of different backgrounds together to support common goals. The Department of American Ethnic Studies brings inclusion to academics. There have been powerful changes in 4 decades.
I think in 1968, students and diversity advocates had to convince the university that there was some value in having diversity in the institution. We are past that argument now. Everyone is in agreement that diversity enriches the educational environment, that the learning that takes place is enriched by having people with different perspectives in our classrooms, in our research labs. The issue now is how do we do it? How do we reach that balance in terms of the mix of our class, the diversity in our faculty, the topics that we pay attention to in our research studies? How do we do that in a way that is beneficial to all of the university and actually beneficial to society?
Those are the questions we continue to answer 40 years after a handful of students asked them of the whole university community. We've certainly made progress in those 40 years, progress we should be proud of, but there's much more to do. The university today reaches out into the community with K-12 partnerships with our Diversity Scholarship Program and a variety of other initiatives. We work hard to make sure that diversity is one of our core values here at the UW, but we have much, much more to do, and we need to do it together. Over the next 40 years, let's see what we can do as a community working together.
If we want to be competitive as an institution of learning that's going to provide benefits to society as a whole, having a diverse population of faculty, a diverse population of students, that's going to make the university sustain itself, for the 1,000 years that people talk about.
Those students who climbed up, up that window and took over the President's office in 1968, I'm sure they couldn't have imagined that we would make as much progress as we have. But those same students also are aware of the limitations of progress, that we've made some tremendous progress, but we got a long way to go before we can reach that vision of what we might look like in 2050. But they started us. They started us on the way.
Join the University of Washington Office of Minority Affairs and Diversity as we celebrate the 40-year anniversary of the event that changed the university forever. For information about events, go to www.washington.edu/diversity/40Y.